They threw me a party when I quit my job. Balloons, cupcakes, the whole 9 yards. My husband Caesar stood there grinning like he'd just won the lottery, while his mother Gwendolyn clapped her hands together like a delighted child. "Finally!" Gwendolyn exclaimed, cutting into a vanilla cupcake with pink frosting. "Our Kayla can focus on what really matters now. My name is Kayla, and I used to be a senior marketing executive at a Fortune 500 company. Used to pull in 6 figures. Used to have my own corner office and a team of 12 people who actually respected my opinion. But there I was, standing in my kitchen at 2 in the afternoon, watching my mother-in-law celebrate the death of my career like it was Christmas morning." "But this is so much better for the kids," Caesar said, wrapping his arm around my waist. "Holly and Anthony need their mum home. You've been missing so much." I forced a smile. "Of course, the kids come first." But let me back up and tell you how we got here, because it didn't happen overnight. It started about 6 months earlier, with little comments, innocent observations. "Holly seemed really upset when you had to work late again," Caesar mentioned one evening as I heated up leftover takeout. "The school called me today," Gwendolyn said during Sunday dinner. "Apparently, Anthony forgot his lunch money again. If someone was home to pack his lunch—" "I saw the cutest family at the park today," Caesar said another time. "The mum was there with her kids, really present, you know, not checking her phone every 5 minutes. Each comment felt like a tiny paper cut. Alone, they were nothing. Together, they bled me dry. The pressure ramped up when I got promoted to vice president. Instead of congratulations, I got lectures. "Is this really worth it?" Caesar asked, holding up my business card with my new title. "You're never home anymore. The kids barely see you." "I just think it's selfish," Gwendolyn said during one of her surprise visits. She had a way of dropping by right when I was rushing to get ready for work. Children need stability. They need their mother. "My friend Sarah quit her job last year," Caesar mentioned casually. "She says it's the best decision she ever made. Her kids are thriving." The final straw came during Holly's school play. I was stuck in a client meeting that ran over, and I missed her solo. When I got home, she was already in bed, but I could hear her crying. "Mummy wasn't there," she whispered to Caesar as he tucked her in. All the other mummies were there. I stood in the hallway, still in my work clothes, feeling like the worst person in the world. That night, Caesar sat me down for the talk. "I think we need to have a serious conversation about priorities," he said. "The kids need you. I need you. This job is consuming your life. But the money, we'll be fine. My salary covers everything we need. You don't have to carry that burden anymore." Gwendolyn nodded enthusiastically from her spot on our couch. Of course she was there for this conversation. "Think about it, dear," she said. "You could actually enjoy your children instead of rushing past them every morning." So I quit, walked into my boss Timothy's office, and handed in my resignation. He looked shocked. "Kayla, you're one of our top performers. Are you sure about this?" "Family comes first," I said, repeating the words that had been drilled into me for months. Which brings us back to the cupcakes. Gwendolyn was practically glowing as she licked frosting off her fingers. "Now you can focus on being a real mother," she said. "No more of this working woman's show." I smiled and nodded, playing the part perfectly. But something had shifted inside me during those months of pressure and guilt, something cold and calculating that I didn't even know existed. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into the stay-at-home mum role. I joined the PTA, volunteered for bake sales, organised play dates. I wore the uniform, yoga pants, oversized sweaters, messy buns. I smiled at school pickup and made small talk about organic snacks and screen time limits. But late one afternoon, while I was folding laundry, I overheard Gwendolyn talking to our neighbour, Mrs. Peterson, over the fence. "Oh yes, Kayla finally came to her senses," Gwendolyn was saying. "All that career nonsense was just for show anyway. She's much better suited to this domestic life." I stood there holding one of Caesar's shirts, listening to her laugh. That's when I decided to smile and watch them dig their own graves. 3 weeks before I quit my job, I made a phone call that would change everything. Riley Ortiz Law Firm. This is Riley speaking. Riley, it's Kayla. I need your help with something, and I need you to keep it completely confidential. Riley had been my roommate in college, and now she was a junior partner at a boutique law firm downtown. We'd stayed close over the years, but this was different. This was business. What's going on? She asked. I need to set up a corporation, something private, and I need to move some money around without my husband knowing. There was a pause. Kayla, are you okay? Is Caesar? I'm fine, but I think I'm about to make a very stupid decision, and I want to make sure I have options. We met at a coffee shop the next morning. I wore sunglasses, even though it was cloudy, feeling ridiculous but paranoid. Talk to me, Riley said, sliding into the booth across from me. I told her everything. The pressure, the guilt trips, the constant undermining of my career. How they made me feel selfish for working, like I was failing my children by having ambitions. So you're going to quit? Riley asked. I think I have to, but I don't trust this situation. Something feels off. Riley leaned forward. What do you mean? Caesar's been pushing really hard for me to quit, but he's also been secretive about money lately. New credit cards I don't know about, statements he hides, and his mother. I shook my head. She's been way too invested in this whole thing. Okay, here's what we're going to do, Riley said, pulling out her laptop. We'll set up an LLC under your maiden name, KJ Holdings. We'll move your personal savings into a business account, and we'll start building you some financial independence. But I don't know anything about business. You don't have to. Not yet, but I have an idea. That's how I met Savannah Hunt. Riley introduced us at a mom mixer at the community centre, one of those networking events disguised as a playdate. Savannah looked like every other suburban mom there, complete with a minivan and a diaper bag. But Riley had told me she owned 12 rental properties. So you're thinking about real estate? Savannah asked, watching our kids play on the indoor playground. Maybe. I honestly don't know where to start. Most people think you need a ton of money to get into real estate, Savannah said. But there are ways to start small. Foreclosures, distressed properties, seller financing. The key is learning to see opportunities where other people see problems. She handed me a business card. I'm going to a foreclosure auction next week. Want to come watch? Consider it education. While Caesar thought I was planning playdates and organising Holly's birthday party, I was actually sitting in the back of a courthouse watching Savannah bid on a duplex. See that one? She whispered, pointing to a property listing. Owner died, family doesn't want it, needs work. But look at the neighbourhood. Good schools, low crime. In 5 years, this area's going to be gold. She was right. The duplex sold for $60,000 under market value. The secret, Savannah explained over coffee afterward, is that most people don't have the patience or the vision to see past surface problems. A little paint, some new flooring, and you've got a cash cow. I started studying. While Caesar was at work and the kids were at school, I researched property values, learned about cap rates and cash flow, studied foreclosure listings. I told everyone I was taking online courses in child development. That's wonderful, dear, Gwendolyn said when I mentioned my classes. So much more appropriate than all that corporate nonsense. 2 months after I quit, Riley called with news. Your great-aunt's estate finally cleared probate, she said. The inheritance is bigger than we thought. I'd forgotten about great-aunt Margaret. She'd died the year before, and her estate had been tied up in legal proceedings. I barely knew her, but apparently she'd remembered me in her will. How much bigger? I asked. Try 400,000 bigger. I nearly dropped the phone. What? Turns out she owned some commercial property downtown that nobody knew about. The lawyers just found the deed. It's all yours." That afternoon, I sat in my minivan outside Holly's school, staring at the bank transfer confirmation on my phone. $400,000, sitting in an account Caesar didn't even know existed. I called Savannah immediately. "I found a property," I said, "a small apartment building. The owner's motivated to sell." "How motivated?" she asked. 200,000 motivated. "I'll pick you up in an hour. We're going to look at it." The building was perfect. 6 units, decent neighborhood, needed cosmetic work but structurally sound. The owner was divorcing and needed to liquidate fast. "This is a steal," Savannah whispered as we walked through the units. "You could rent these for $800 each. Easy. That's almost $5,000 a month in income." That evening, while Caesar helped Anthony with homework and I pretended to meal prep, Riley texted me, "Wire transfer complete. Congratulations, you just bought your first rental property." I smiled, chopping vegetables for dinner, thinking about how proud Gwendolyn would be that I was finally focusing on domestic duties. If only she knew I'd just become a landlord. A year later, I was making pancakes when the doorbell rang. "I'll get it," Caesar called out, but something in his voice made me pause. Too eager, too prepared. I heard muffled conversation at the front door, then Caesar's footsteps coming back to the kitchen. He was holding an envelope. "Kayla, we need to talk." Holly and Anthony were at the table, syrup on their faces, completely oblivious. I kept flipping pancakes like nothing was wrong. "What's that?" I asked. "Divorce papers." The spatula slipped from my hand, not because I was shocked. I'd been expecting this for months, but because of how he said it. Cold, rehearsed. "Kids, go brush your teeth," I said quietly. "But we're not done eating," Anthony started. "Now." They scrambled upstairs, sensing the tension. Caesar sat down at the kitchen table, spreading the papers out like he was presenting a business proposal. "Look, this doesn't have to be ugly," he said. "You're broke. You have no income, no assets. I get the house, primary custody of the kids. You'll get visitation rights, obviously. Obviously. You'll land on your feet. You're smart. Maybe you can find another job. Start over. Might be good for you, actually." I stared at him. This man I'd been married to for 9 years, who'd convinced me to give up everything for our family, was sitting there dismantling my life like he was cancelling a subscription. "What brought this on?" I asked. "We've been growing apart for a while now. You know that. And honestly, since you quit working, you've been different, distant. The kids have noticed." "The kids have noticed." "Don't repeat everything I say. It's annoying." I picked up the papers, scanning the legal language. Everything was already decided. Custody, property division, spousal support, which was listed as 0. "You'll need to find a lawyer," Caesar said, "but don't drag this out. It's better for everyone if we keep it simple." 2 hours later, Gwendolyn showed up. Of course she did. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, pulling Caesar into a hug. "I'm so sorry you're going through this." She barely glanced at me. "Where are my grandchildren?" she asked. "Upstairs," I said. "They don't know yet." "Well, they'll need to know soon. We should probably discuss living arrangements. Caesar, you'll need help with the children while you're working." "Actually," Caesar said, "I've already thought of that." As if on cue, the doorbell rang again. Caesar went to answer it and came back with a young woman. Early 20s, long dark hair, bright smile. "This is Elena," Caesar said. "She's going to be helping out with the kids." Elena stepped forward, hand extended. "Hi, I'm so excited to meet everyone. Caesar's told me so much about Holly and Anthony." I shook her hand, noting how she avoided eye contact with me, but smiled warmly at Gwendolyn. "Elena has experience with children," Gwendolyn said approvingly. "She's going to be wonderful for rebuilding the home life here." "Rebuilding," I repeated. "You know what I mean," Gwendolyn said. "Getting back to a more stable environment. Over the next few days, I played the part perfectly. Confused, hurt, financially dependent. I let them think I was falling apart. I don't know how I'm going to afford a lawyer, I told Caesar one evening. Maybe you should call your old boss, see if he'll give you your job back, he suggested. Though I doubt they'd want someone who's been out of the workforce for a year. Eleanor had moved into the guest room temporarily to help with the transition. She was sweet with the kids, but I caught her and Caesar having quiet conversations in the kitchen, planning things, discussing schedules, routines, futures that didn't include me. "Mommy, why is Elena sleeping here?" Holly asked one night. "She's helping Daddy take care of you," I said. "But you take care of us." "I know, baby. Things are just changing right now." I started recording conversations. Not obviously, just my phone sitting on the counter while I made dinner, capturing Caesar's casual cruelty. "The sooner she finds her own place, the better," he told Elena one afternoon. "The kids need stability, not this constant tension." "She seems really sad," Elena said. "She'll be fine. Kayla's tougher than she looks. This is probably the push she needed to get her life together." That evening, my phone rang. Riley. "How are you holding up?" she asked. "I'm managing, playing the part." "Good, because I have news. We just acquired a new asset. You might want to check the address line on the deed I'm emailing you." I opened my laptop, waiting for the email to load. When I saw the address, I had to read it 3 times. It was my house, my own house. "Riley," I whispered, "how is this possible? Remember when Cesar refinanced last year? He used a company that sells mortgages to investment firms. We've been tracking it through shell companies for months. KJ Holdings just bought your mortgage debt." I stared at the screen. "So you own Caesar's debt. The house isn't his anymore, Kayla. It's yours. He's been living in your property and he doesn't even know it." I hung up and walked to the kitchen, where Caesar was helping Anthony with homework while Elena made dinner. They looked like a perfect little family. "How's it going in here?" I asked. "Great," Caesar said without looking up. "Elena made that pasta you never make anymore." "The one that takes too much time?" I asked sweetly. "Exactly." I smiled, thinking about the email sitting in my inbox. Tomorrow I'd be sending Caesar his first rent notice from his new landlord. I met Riley at her office the next morning, while Caesar thought I was at a support group for divorcing women. "Walk me through this again," I said, staring at the mortgage documents spread across her conference table. "Caesar refinanced the house 18 months ago through Pinnacle Lending," Riley explained. "What he didn't know is that Pinnacle immediately sells their mortgages to investment companies. We've been tracking the paper trail through 3 different shell companies. And now KJ Holdings, your company, owns the debt. Caesar owes you the mortgage payments. The house is collateral, which means if he defaults, you can foreclose." I picked up the deed. My name was on it. Well, technically, KJ Holdings' name, but same thing. He has no idea? None. The mortgage company sends him bills, he pays them, never thinking to check who actually holds the loan. Most people don't. "So what happens now?" Riley smiled. "Now you become his landlord. Legally, you can charge him rent for living in your property, and if he doesn't pay, I can evict him." "Exactly." That afternoon, I met Savannah at a coffee shop near the kids' school. "You look different," she said, studying my face. "More focused." "I just found out I own my own house." Savannah nearly choked on her latte. "What?" I explained the mortgage situation while she listened, her eyes getting wider. "That's brilliant," she said finally. "But you need to be careful. Caesar's going to figure out he's in trouble soon enough." "What do you mean?" "I've been doing some digging since you mentioned his name. Your husband's business expansion, the one he used to justify the refinance. It's bleeding money." She pulled out her phone, showing me a business registration website. Caesar's consulting firm took out 3 business loans in the past year, big ones, and according to public records, 2 of his major clients didn't renew their contracts. How do you know all this? Honey, I didn't get 12 rental properties by accident. I know how to research people's finances. Your husband is in debt up to his eyeballs. But he acts like money's no problem. Of course he does. Men like Caesar would rather die than admit they're failing. But look at this. She showed me more documents on her phone, credit reports, business filings, loan applications. He's been using the house as collateral for everything. If his business goes under, he loses it all, except now. Now I own it all. Exactly. He's been playing with your money without knowing it. That evening, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of tea, drafting an email. Caesar was upstairs giving the kids a bath while Eleanor cleaned up dinner. The email was simple. Dear Mr. Shelton, this letter serves as official notification that KJ Holdings LLC has acquired the mortgage on your property at address. Effective immediately, your monthly housing payment of $2,847 should be remitted to the address below. Additionally, as you are now occupying a property owned by KJ Holdings, a rental agreement must be established. Please contact our office to discuss terms. Sincerely, KJ Holdings Property Management. I attached the deed and mortgage documents, then hit send. My phone buzzed immediately. Riley. Did you just do what I think you did? She asked. I sent him the rent notice. And now we wait. I didn't have to wait long. 20 minutes later, Caesar came storming downstairs, laptop in hand. Kayla, what the hell is this? He slammed the laptop down on the kitchen table, showing me the email. What's what? I asked innocently. This email. Some company saying they own our house. I don't know. What company? KJ Holdings. Have you ever heard of them? I pretended to think. No, I don't think so. Maybe it's a mistake. It better be a mistake. I'm calling the mortgage company first thing tomorrow. Elena appeared in the doorway, looking concerned. Is everything okay? Some company is claiming they own the house, Caesar said. It's probably a scam. Oh no, Elena said. I've heard about those. People trying to steal houses through fake paperwork. Exactly, Caesar said. Don't worry, I'll sort this out. But over the next few days, Caesar's confidence started to crack. I watched him make phone call after phone call, getting transferred from department to department. Yes, I'm calling about my mortgage, he'd say. Someone's claiming they bought it. What do you mean you sold it? When? To who? By the 3rd day, he was pacing the kitchen while Eleanor tried to keep the kids distracted. This is insane, he muttered. How can someone just buy your mortgage without telling you? Maybe you should call a lawyer, I suggested helpfully. With what money? Do you know how much lawyers cost? That's when it hit me. Caesar was scared, really scared, and not just about the house. Caesar, I said gently, are we okay financially? I mean, with the divorce and everything. He stopped pacing. We're fine. Because if there are problems, maybe we should talk about it, for the kids' sake. I said we're fine, but his voice cracked when he said it. That night, after everyone was asleep, my phone buzzed with a text from Riley. Check your email, you're going to want to see this. I opened my laptop. Riley had sent me Caesar's complete financial profile. Bank statements, credit reports, business loan documents. He was drowning. The consulting business was 3 months behind on loan payments. His business credit cards were maxed out, and according to the documents, he'd been counting on selling the house to pay off his debts. Except now, he couldn't sell the house, because I owned it. I smiled, closing the laptop. Tomorrow, I'd send him his 2nd rent notice, this one with late fees. 2 weeks later, I was organising Holly's backpack when I found something interesting. A receipt from Caesar's wallet had fallen out of his jacket pocket, the one Holly had been playing dress-up in. The Ritz-Carlton, Lake Tahoe, 2 nights, premium suite. Last weekend, when Caesar told me he was at a business conference, I took a photo of the receipt and texted it to Riley. "Can you run the credit card number on this?" I asked. "Already on it," she replied an hour later, "but you're not going to like what I found." We met at our usual coffee shop. Riley had printed out bank statements and credit card records. "The Tahoe trip wasn't alone," she said, sliding papers across the table. "Look at the charges. 2 spa treatments, 2 dinners, 2 everything." Maybe he took a client named Drew Salazar. Ring any bells? I stared at the name. That's his co-worker from the consulting firm. Right, and look at this. Riley showed me more statements. They've been taking these business trips for 8 months, always the same pattern. Nice hotels, couples activities, shared rooms. You're saying Caesar's having an affair. I'm saying Caesar's been having an affair with Drew for almost a year and funding it with credit cards that are now maxed out. I sat back in my chair, processing this. Drew's married too. Yep, wife and 2 kids. I looked him up. So while Caesar was pressuring me to quit my job and be a better mother, he was cheating on you with his male co-worker and spending your family's money on romantic getaways. I laughed, actually laughed out loud. This is perfect. Perfect? Riley, this gives us everything we need for the custody hearing. Adultery, financial irresponsibility, lying to the court about his living situation. What do you want me to do? Document everything, every trip, every charge, every lie, and get me Drew's wife's contact information. Kayla, be careful. If you're thinking about telling her, I'm not going to tell her anything, yet, but I want options. That evening, Caesar was on the phone in his office when the doorbell rang. Elena was giving the kids a bath, so I answered it. Drew stood on my doorstep, looking nervous. Hi, Kayla. Is Caesar home? He's on a call. Come in. Drew stepped inside, glancing around like he'd never been to our house before. Which was weird, because he'd been here for barbecues and birthday parties. Everything okay? I asked sweetly. Yeah, just work stuff. You know how it is. Actually, I don't. I've been out of the workforce for a while now. Right, Caesar mentioned you're focusing on the kids now. Among other things. Drew shifted uncomfortably. Well, maybe I should come back later. Drew! Caesar appeared at the top of the stairs. What are you doing here? We need to talk about the Peterson account. Now? It's urgent. Caesar came downstairs and I watched them carefully, the way Drew's eyes lingered on Caesar. How Caesar touched Drew's shoulder when he passed him. Little things that meant nothing individually, but painted a clear picture together. We'll be in my office, Caesar said. I'll make coffee, I offered. Don't bother, Caesar said quickly. This won't take long. But it did take long, almost 2 hours, and through the thin walls I could hear fragments of conversation. Can't keep doing this. She's getting suspicious. What if she finds out about Tahoe? When Drew finally left, Caesar seemed agitated. Everything all right with work? I asked. Fine, just client drama. Drew seemed stressed. He's always stressed, don't worry about it. But I was worrying about it. The next morning, while Caesar was at the gym and Elena was at the grocery store with the kids, I called Riley. I need you to prepare something for me, I said. Anonymous documents for family court, about Caesar's stability. What kind of documents? Financial records showing the debt, evidence of the affair, photos of the trips. Frame it as concerns about his ability to provide a stable home environment. You want me to send this to the custody evaluator? Not yet, but I want it ready. And Riley, I think Drew might be getting cold feet about the affair. If he is, Caesar's going to panic. What makes you think that? because Drew showed up at my house last night looking terrified, and they spent 2 hours behind closed doors talking about keeping secrets. That afternoon, I was folding laundry when my phone buzzed. Text from an unknown number. "This is Drew. Can we talk? It's important." I stared at the message for a long time before responding. About what? About Caesar and what he's planning to do to you. My heart started racing. "When?" "Tomorrow. Coffee shop on 5th Street, 2 p.m. Come alone." I deleted the conversation and went back to folding Caesar's shirts, wondering what Drew was going to tell me, and whether I could trust anything he said. But mostly, I was wondering if Caesar had any idea how badly he'd underestimated me, because tomorrow I was going to find out exactly what my husband was planning, and then I was going to destroy him with it. I never made it to meet Drew, because at 10 a.m. that morning, Gwendolyn showed up at my door with her own agenda. "We need to have a little chat," he said, pushing past me into the house. "The kids are at school and Caesar's at work," I said. "Good. This is between us women." She settled herself on my couch like she owned the place, which was ironic considering I actually did own the place now. "I'll make tea," I said. "Don't bother, this won't take long." But I made it anyway, giving myself time to think. When I returned with 2 cups, Gwendolyn was looking around the living room with a satisfied expression. "You know, this house will be perfect for Caesar and the children," she said. "Much better without all the tension you've been creating." "I haven't been creating tension." "Please, you've been moping around here for weeks, making everyone miserable. The children can sense it." I sat down across from her, cradling my tea. "Is that what you came to tell me?" "I came to give you some advice. Don't fight the custody arrangement. Caesar's lawyers will eat girls like you for lunch." "Girls like me?" "You know what I mean. No job, no income, no prospects. What judge is going to give custody to someone who can't even support herself?" I took a sip of tea, letting her words hang in the air. "Besides," she continued, "it's better for everyone this way. You can start fresh, maybe find a nice apartment somewhere. The children will visit you on weekends." "If Caesar allows it." "Caesar's very reasonable, as long as you don't make trouble." I set down my teacup and looked at her. Really looked at her. This woman who had spent years undermining me, who had celebrated the death of my career, who was now trying to intimidate me into giving up my children. "Gwendolyn," I said quietly, "do you remember my great-aunt Margaret?" "What?" "My great-aunt Margaret. She died last year. You sent a sympathy card." Yes, I suppose. What does that have to do with anything?" "She left me something in her will. I just found out about it." I pulled out my phone and showed her the property appraisal Riley had sent me, the commercial lot downtown that Great-Aunt Margaret had owned. Current value, $1.2 million. Gwendolyn's face went white. That's not possible." "It's very possible. In fact, it's already mine, transferred into my name last month." I swiped to the next document, the deed to Sunset Manor, the assisted living complex where Gwendolyn had been living for the past 3 years. "Funny thing about that property," I said conversationally. "Great-Aunt Margaret bought the whole complex back in the 80s. It's been generating rental income for decades." Gwendolyn was staring at the screen like it might bite her. "You see, Gwen, I own your retirement complex. I'm your landlord. Have been for a month now." "That's impossible. I pay rent to Sunset Manor Management, which is owned by KJ Holdings, which is owned by me." I showed her the corporate structure Riley had set up. Shell companies within shell companies, all leading back to me. "So when you say Caesar's lawyers will eat girls like me for lunch," I continued, "I have to wonder, do you want me to raise your rent too?" Gwendolyn stood up abruptly, knocking over her teacup. Hot liquid spilled across my coffee table. "This is some kind of trick," she said. "No trick, just inheritance law and good financial planning." "Caesar will never believe this." Caesar doesn't have to believe it. The courts will believe it, my lawyers will believe it, and your landlord, that's me, believes it. Gwendolen was backing toward the door now, her face flushed. You can't do this. You can't just... You're nobody. You're a stay-at-home mom. I'm a stay-at-home mum who owns your home, I said sweetly, and your son's home, and several other properties you don't know about yet. She fumbled for the door handle. Oh, and Gwen, I called after her, you might want to check your mailbox when you get back to Sunset Manor. I sent you something. After she left, I cleaned up the spilled tea and called Riley. Did you send the eviction notice to Gwendolen's apartment? I asked. Delivered an hour ago. 30 days to vacate for violation of lease terms. What violation? Harassment of other tenants, specifically harassment of the property owner. That's a real violation. It is now. I wrote it into the lease agreement when we took over the complex. That evening, Caesar came home in a fury. What did you do to my mother? He demanded. I had tea with her. She seemed upset when she left. She's sick over some game you're playing, something about properties and eviction notices. I don't know what you mean. Cut the innocent act, Kayla. I know you're up to something. Eleanor appeared in the kitchen doorway, looking concerned. Is everything okay? My mother got some kind of legal notice today, Caesar said, claiming she's being evicted from her apartment. That's terrible, Elena said. Why would someone do that? Because my wife thinks she's smarter than she actually is. I looked at Caesar, this man who had systematically destroyed my confidence and career, who was cheating on me while planning to take my children away. Maybe your mother should call a lawyer, I suggested. I hear they eat girls like her for lunch. Caesar stared at me, and for the first time since I'd known him, I saw fear in his eyes. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing, I said, smiling. Just that everyone needs good legal advice these days. Court day arrived on a Tuesday morning in October. I wore a simple navy dress and flats, the picture of a struggling single mother. Caesar showed up in his best suit with a lawyer who looked like he charged $500 an hour. Mrs. Shelton, Caesar's lawyer said as we waited outside the courtroom, my client is prepared to be generous with visitation rights if you don't contest the custody arrangement. That's very kind, I said quietly. Caesar looked smug. See, I told you she'd be reasonable. Inside the courtroom, Judge Martinez reviewed our case files. Caesar's lawyer went first, painting me as an unemployed woman with no means to support the children. Your Honour, Mrs. Shelton quit her job over a year ago and has made no effort to find employment. She has no income, no assets, and no stable housing arrangement. Mr. Shelton, meanwhile, runs a successful consulting business and can provide the children with stability and security. Thank you, Counsellor, Judge Martinez said. Mrs. Shelton, do you have representation? Yes, Your Honour. Riley stood up from the back of the courtroom. Riley Ortiz, representing Mrs. Shelton. Caesar's head whipped around. What the hell? Language, Mr. Shelton, the judge warned. Riley approached the bench with a stack of documents. Your Honour, we'd like to address the housing situation first. Proceed. Mrs. Shelton is not, as opposing counsel claims, without stable housing. Riley handed papers to the judge and Caesar's lawyer. These documents show that Mrs. Shelton owns the family residence through KJ Holdings LLC. Caesar's lawyer looked confused. Your Honour, this must be some mistake. No mistake, Riley continued. Mrs. Shelton purchased the mortgage debt 18 months ago. Mr. Shelton is currently a tenant in his estranged wife's property. That's impossible, Caesar shouted, standing up. Mr. Shelton, sit down, Judge Martinez ordered. Your Honour, Riley said, we also have documentation showing that Mr. Shelton has been in violation of his lease agreement by allowing unauthorised occupants, specifically Ms. Elena Ramos, to reside in the property without the landlord's consent. I watched Caesar's face turn red as Riley methodically destroyed his case. Furthermore, Riley continued, we have evidence that Mr. Shelton has been financially irresponsible, accumulating significant debt while misrepresenting his financial status to the court. She handed over bank statements, credit reports, and loan documents. And finally, Your Honour, we have evidence of adultery. Riley produced photos from the Tahoe trips, credit card statements, and hotel receipts. Mr. Shelton has been conducting an extramarital affair with his business partner, Drew Salazar, for approximately 8 months, using marital assets to fund romantic getaways while claiming financial hardship. Caesar's lawyer was frantically whispering to his client, but Caesar looked like he was going to be sick. Your Honour, the lawyer said desperately, we weren't aware of these allegations. We request a continuance to review. Denied, Judge Martinez said. Mrs. Ortiz, do you have witnesses? Yes, Your Honour. Savannah entered the courtroom, looking professional in a business suit. State your name for the record. Savannah Hunt. I'm a real estate investor and Mrs. Shelton's business mentor. Can you speak to Mrs. Shelton's financial stability? Absolutely. Mrs. Shelton owns multiple properties through her investment company. She has substantial assets and generates significant rental income. She's one of the most financially savvy women I know. Next, a woman I didn't recognize took the stand. Taya Joseph, child psychologist. I've been observing the family dynamics at Mrs. Shelton's request. And your assessment? The children are clearly bonded with their mother. Mr. Shelton's introduction of a romantic partner into the home during divorce proceedings shows poor judgment regarding the children's emotional welfare. Caesar's lawyer tried to object, but Judge Martinez silenced him. Mrs. Shelton, the judge said, approach the bench. I stood up, smoothing my dress. You've been remarkably quiet during these proceedings. Do you have anything to say? Yes, Your Honour. I love my children more than anything in this world. I made sacrifices for my family that I thought were right at the time, but I won't sacrifice my children's well-being or my own dignity any further. I paused, looking directly at Caesar. I'm not the helpless woman my husband thinks I am. I'm their mother, and I'm perfectly capable of providing for them. Judge Martinez reviewed the documents one more time. Based on the evidence presented, I'm awarding primary custody to Mrs. Shelton. Mr. Shelton will have supervised visitation until he can demonstrate financial and emotional stability. Caesar shot to his feet. This is insane. She's been lying about everything. Mr. Shelton, one more outburst and you'll be held in contempt. Your Honour, Riley said, there's one more matter. Mrs. Shelton would like to address the business loan debt. She handed over another set of documents. Mrs. Shelton's investment company has also acquired Mr. Shelton's business loans. As of yesterday, she owns his debt obligations as well. The courtroom went dead silent. Caesar stared at the papers like they were written in a foreign language. So let me understand, Judge Martinez said. Mrs. Shelton owns Mr. Shelton's house and his business debt. That's correct, Your Honour. Caesar's lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. Well, the judge said, this is certainly an unusual case. Mrs. Shelton, you're awarded primary custody. Mr. Shelton, you have 30 days to establish appropriate housing and demonstrate financial responsibility before unsupervised visitation will be considered. As we left the courtroom, Caesar grabbed my arm. How? He whispered. How did you do this? I looked at him, this man who had tried to erase me, who had celebrated my professional death, who had planned to take my children and leave me with nothing. You wanted a stay-at-home mom, I said quietly. You just forgot to ask what kind. The moving truck pulled away from my house on a Thursday afternoon. Caesar had packed his things in silence while Eleanor waited in her car, both of them looking like they'd been hit by a tornado. Where are you going? Holly asked, watching her father load the last box. Daddy's getting a new place, I said gently, but you'll still see him on weekends. Can we visit his new house? I glanced at Caesar, who was avoiding eye contact. We'll see, sweetheart. After they left, I called Riley. He's out, I said. How do you feel? Honestly, empty. I thought I'd feel more victorious. That's normal. You want to grab dinner? Celebrate? Actually, I want to see where they ended up. Riley was quiet for a moment. Kayla, maybe you should let it go now. You won. I just want to see. We drove to Gwendolyn's new address, a cramped 2-bedroom apartment in a complex I didn't own. Caesar's car was in the parking lot next to a moving truck. They're living together? Riley asked. Looks like it. Through the thin walls, we could hear arguing. This is your fault, Gwendolyn's voice carried clearly. You said she was helpless. How was I supposed to know she'd been planning this for months? Caesar shot back. You're 40 years old, living with your mother because your wife outsmarted you. She's not my wife anymore. And whose fault is that? Riley touched my arm. Come on, let's go. But I wasn't done yet. I knocked on the door. Caesar answered, looking haggard. What do you want? To talk. Can I come in? He stepped aside reluctantly. The apartment was tiny, boxes everywhere. Gwendolyn sitting on a folding chair, looking defeated. Hello, Gwen, I said pleasantly. She didn't respond. I wanted to discuss your living situation, I continued. This complex has a 6-month lease minimum, and the rent's pretty steep for what you get. We're managing, Caesar said stiffly. Are you? Because I own 3 properties that might work better for you. Cheaper rent, more space. Gwendolyn looked up sharply. You want to be our landlord? I want to help my children's father and grandmother have stable housing. The kids need to know where to find you. What's the catch? Caesar asked. No catch. Market rate rent, standard lease terms. You pay on time. We don't have problems. And if we don't pay on time? I smiled. Then you get evicted like any other tenant. Caesar ran his hands through his hair. This is insane. You're enjoying this. Am I? You think I enjoy watching my children's father live in a cramped apartment with his mother? You think I wanted any of this? You planned it. I protected myself. There's a difference. Gwendolyn stood up slowly. Why are you really here? Because despite everything, you're Holly and Anthony's grandmother, and he's their father. They love you both. But they're going to grow up knowing what happened. They'll know their father tried to take everything from their mother and failed. They'll know their grandmother celebrated when I gave up my career, then tried to intimidate me into giving up my children. Gwendolyn's face crumpled. So here's what's going to happen, I continued. You're going to move into one of my properties. You're going to pay rent like responsible adults. And you're going to treat me with respect when my children are around. And if we don't? Caesar asked. Then you'll find out how creative I can get with lease violations. I pulled out a business card and set it on their folding table. Think about it. The offer expires tomorrow. As Riley and I walked back to the car, she shook her head. You're really going to rent to them? They need somewhere to live, and I need them stable for the kids' sake. You could have destroyed them completely. I know, but that's not who I want to be. The next morning, Caesar called. We'll take the house on Maple Street, he said quietly. Good choice. Riley will send over the lease agreement. Kayla? Yeah? I'm sorry for all of it. I was quiet for a long moment. I know you are, but sorry doesn't fix what you broke. Can we try to be better for the kids? We can try. That afternoon, I sat in my home office, the same room where Caesar used to take his secret calls with Drew, working on my new project, a website called Financial Freedom for Moms, offering anonymous advice and resources for women who wanted to protect themselves financially. Holly came in with her homework. Mommy, what are you working on? Something to help other mummies. Like helping them with their kids? like helping them take care of themselves. She climbed into my lap and I closed the laptop. Are you sad about Daddy moving out? She asked. A little, but I'm happy we're safe and together. Are we rich now? I laughed. We're secure, that's better than rich. What's the difference? Rich can disappear. Secure is something you build yourself. She nodded, like that made perfect sense, then went back to her math homework. I opened my laptop again and typed a new blog post. They wanted a stay-at-home mom. They got a real estate mogul who works from home. They asked for someone to focus on family. They got someone who secured her family's future. They demanded I give up my career. They forgot I could build a better one. To the women reading this, they underestimated us. Don't let them do it again. I hit publish and smiled. This was just the beginning.